What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Profanatica, entitled The Curling Flame of Blasphemy. This is released on Hells Headbangers Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they were originally based out of New York, but are now based out of Connecticut. And the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very traditional, raw, and primitive style of black metal. Yeah. It's no secret that a band like Profanatica is very, very influential, controversial, and very forthright in the movement of the early beginnings of US black metal. Very distinctive imagery, sound, quality, controversy, infamy, just a whole lot of things going on with a project like Profanatica, and this really set things forward with their early 90s releases, especially EPs and demos, stuff like As Tears of Blood Stain the Altar of Christ, the Putrets and Sov demo, Broken Throne of Christ, Weeping in Heaven, excuse me, and so many great other early 90s releases helped really make a band like this well known and respected with their style and sound. The look, the imagery, the sound, just an incredible way to get a band like Profanatica known out there. But then in the late 2000s, Profanatica seemed to re-emerge with a more refined sort of sound, and that's when we got the full-length albums. 2007's Profanatitas de Dominatia, to what I feel is my absolute favorite Profanatica album out of everything they've done, 2010's Disgusting Blasphemies Against God, in which they amped up the rawness and hate and mentality that much more. Overly audible bass, wretched vocals, deadly riffs, natural drumming, just an overall tight-knit package, and I love the fuck out of that record. They even put out something pretty nice in 2013 with Thy Kingdom Come. That's a record I really haven't listened to too much in recent times, but I do remember that record having a lot of really fun moments to be had and heard on it. Still going back to a record like Disgusting Blasphemies Against God, just some incredibly hate-fueled, blasphemous black metal. I fucking love that shit. And of course, last year I had the privilege of getting to see this band live at Hells Headbash. It was quite an intriguing and interesting performance, to say the least bit. All I can really say is that if you were there to witness it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it was cool to finally get to see them live. But, I had heard rumblings that there was going to be a brand new full-length from Profanatica coming out this year, and I was quite interested to hear as to how things were going to be worked out and how things were going to sound. Of course, the song being Ordained in Bile. I was very interested to hear what was going to happen, and of course, finding out later that this is pretty much done as a two-piece for this record. Just the principal people who have been with Profanatica for the longest time, Paul Ledney and John Gelso. I was very interested to hear how the rest of this album was going to sound, and now here we are with the fourth full-length from Profanatica entitled The Curling Flame of Blasphemy. It's 10 tracks, and the clock's in at around 36 minutes in length, and there's that old saying whenever you listen to music, if there's a certain band out there, if you've happened to have heard one song, you've pretty much heard all of them. That's what it feels like when you're going to listen to an album like The Curling Flame of Blasphemy. But with a formula that Profanatica have, you pretty much already know what you're going to be in for. And when I listened to this album, I pretty much had the mindset of walking into this expecting it to be a Profanatica record. And it is indeed a Profanatica record, from the sound, to the look, to the imagery, to the overall presentation. This absolutely feels like a Profanatica record. But there's something a little bit different. I feel that sort of different vibe. I get those kind of weird vibes when listening to something like this, and I don't know. In comparison to previous Profanatica releases, I just don't know what type of vibe I'm feeling here, but it's kind of a strange listen for the most part. But I think in due time this can be a little bit more satisfying with more listens. But any which way, let's talk about the music. It's Profanatica business as usual. These guys know exactly how to make their sound work, how to make their style work, and how to make things work out very nicely. And I think that the guitar and bass work on here are what shine the most out of this entire release. I mean, hearing it on songs like Ordained in Bile, Magic and Muir, Host Over Cup, just some seriously awesome guitar riff work going on here. Pretty much what you would normally expect from a Profanatica sort of guitar tone. Lots of heavy emphasis on tremolo riffs, really down-tuned sort of guitar playing. It sounds really dingy and really dirty, and that's what I enjoy the most about the Profanatica sort of guitar sound, is that sort of level of dinginess and dirtiness being done here for a release like this. And the one thing I love the most about Profanatica is the bass tone, especially with the later releases. I'm mentioning Disgusting Blasphemies Against God a lot because once I listened to that record, the bass guitar was just so loud and overpowering and overbearing. That was the whole point of it. But I feel in recent releases, the bass tone has decided to just scale itself down just a little bit. But not a little bit to where it's non-existent. You can still hear it and you can still catch it quite nicely. And I think that's what gives this band's sound an almost queasy, stomach-churning sort of vibe when you listen to the bass guitar. It's very loud, very plodding, very dark. I love the bass guitar tone that's being done on here, and I do commend John Gelso for being so intriguing when it comes to playing guitar and bass riffs. I honestly prefer him more as a bass. I prefer the bass work that he does in comparison to the actual guitar work and riffing that's done here. I think the bass steals the show here throughout this entire record. But yeah, I really think the guitar and bass work do work out very well here, especially to sort some of the lengthier tracks on here, like the closing track, Curling Flame. It's almost a 7-minute long track, but it gets the job done. Moving on to the drums, it's a Profanatica drum performance. What else needs to be said about it? Lots of heavy blast beats. I like the slower sort of doom metal-esque sort of moments, like going back to the track Magic and Myrrh. I really like the fact that they try to keep an almost doom sort of structure when it comes to those songs. Of course, it's black metal, but yet you hear the mid-pace slow parts. They do feel a little bit doomy at times, but I think it really does sound awesome to listen to, especially towards the moments where the music begins to pick up speed and be a little bit faster. But it's what you would normally expect out of a drum performance from a guy like Paul Ledney. He really does know what he's doing here, and he does it quite well, very gingerly, I would say. Very solid drum performance here. And moving on to the vocals, once again, it's another trait of Profanatica that you would probably know best and expect. Lot of wails, a lot of retching. That's what you normally would expect out of the vocal performance here, and on the Curling Flame of Blasphemy, it's no different. I do wish that the vocals could have been a little bit louder in this album's mix. I do think that this album does feel a slight bit flawed when it comes to the production. I do think the vocals get buried a little bit underneath the instrumentation, but I do think, for the most part, Paul Ledney does what Paul Ledney knows how to do, and that's just deliver some very mean, discomforting sort of retching going on with the vocals on here. Even the spoken word parts that pop up in bits and spurts definitely serve their place, but I think he does a solid vocal performance. I do wish I could have heard it a little bit better, but yeah, what else can be said? This is a Profanatica record. So overall, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it, but for the most part, I think it's highly, highly enjoyable. I don't like this as much as I do Disgusting Blasphemies Against God, because I do consider that to be the best Profanatica record, in my opinion. And with the Curling Flame of Blasphemy, it's pretty much standard part of the course business as usual. It's very listenable, it's very enjoyable, but I do think there could have been a lot more to be desired out of it in certain places. I would say it's definitely worth picking up if you are into Profanatica, if you're a fan of this band. I do think this is a very good album, but I thought it could have been a lot better. If I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Ordained in Bile, Magic and Muir, Host Over Cup, Yahweh Rejected, very, very good song, and the closing track, Curving Flame. Very solid tracks. the good outweighs the bad, I would say, on a release like this. So if I'm going to leave you a link in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the Hells Headbangers Bandcamp page where you can stream this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can stream it by digitally. It is available in a wide multitude of physical formats: CD, cassette, multiple vinyl versions. I got the color version coming my way, picture disc, standard black vinyl. I'm looking forward to owning it, and maybe in due time it could grow on me a little bit more. So again, the album is The Curling Flame of Blasphemy by Profanatica. This is released on Hells Headbangers Records. Go check this out. And as far as the score goes, I'm going to give this a very solid 8 out of 10. Very, very enjoyable release. I do think there is a lot left to be desired from it, though. But hey, what do I know? That's just me personally. If you happen to enjoy it more than I did, then that's cool. If any of you guys happen to have heard this album, let me know what you think about it and how you feel about it and how you think it compares to previous Profanatica releases. Are any of you guys into Profanatica? I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are, so let's talk about it. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. And until next time, RV Help out.